Hi everyone, my name is Natalie Denny and I am author of the Keisha Jones series. So I'm here today with BookTrust represents to do our virtual author visit. I'm so excited to meet you all, to see you all and to talk a little bit about my books as well as some amazing other authors' books as well. So let's get started. So I'm going to start off with a poll question just to get everyone in the bookish mood and to learn a little bit more about me as well. So the first question is, where am I from? I am from Liverpool, number 1. Number 2, space. Or number 3, the wild. Okay, I'm going to give you a bit of time to think a little bit about where you think I'm from, and I'm going to give you the clue. Look at the picture, okay? So this was taken maybe last year on a really sunny, lovely day, as you can see. And if you zoom right in, because I'm quite small in this big picture, I'm holding one of my books as well. And if you look right at the top, you can see a building with a type of bird on. So that will give you a big clue about where I am from. Okay. So the most popular answer is Liverpool, and that's correct. And you know, that's why I talk the way that I do. I'm from a place called Liverpool, and I am a Scouser from Liverpool. And that building in that particular picture is called the Liver Building. And that bird right on the top is called the Liver Bird. I was born in Liverpool, and Liverpool is one of my favourite places in the world. And you should really go and visit it if you haven't been already. So well done, everyone. So we're going to move on. So I'm going to talk a little bit about my recommendations or favourite children's books. Okay, so the first one, I haven't got a copy of that, but it's Skellig, and it is an amazing book that's full of hope and talks about grief and really big things for kids. I think it's so important that we talk about things that for kids that might be really hard. And I think that's one amazing things that children's books does. It takes these big, massive thoughts and feelings and allows you to work through them in the form of a book. The other book that I would recommend is this one, and it is called Fable House by E.L. Norrie. And it's a fantastic book, all about family, found family, about history, and about connection and identity. So if you haven't read this book already, I would recommend. The next one is a book which is probably before a lot of your times, called The Thief of Always by Clive Barker. When I first read this book, my mind was blown. I was like, this is amazing. It's fantasy, it's friends, it's connection. And it was one of them books that really made me want to be a writer. The next book I want to talk about is Onyeka and the Academy of the Sun. Now, I've met this author and she's fantastic. And this is all about an amazing girl whose hair has fantastic magical properties and who goes out and it becomes her superpower. This is a wonderful book full of legacy, lots of history, and it's something that is really great for creative and inquiring minds. Okay, and then the next book, this is an amazing author, also illustrated as well, Shantae Timothy. So Shantae Timothy, you might know, is the illustrator of my books too. She's fantastic. And this book is what we call a graphic novel. And this has got amazing illustrations that accompany the words. And this is all about a little girl, Nova or Supernova, who loves science and loves experimentation and making things. And sometimes when we experiment, things don't go quite to plan. And in this book, this is all about Nova's experience of being an amazing scientist. Beautiful book, beautiful illustrations, and I highly recommend it. Okay, and the last one, which isn't actually on the screen, is Destiny Inc. This is about an amazing author as well, and this is all about a little girl who has her first experience of a sleepover and all the worries that go along with that, about sleeping in another person's house, about being outside. She's camping in this, and if you're like me, I'm not a camping girl. It can be a bit scary to think about creepy crawlies and to think about winds and possible monsters. But this book deals with it really well and shows you that you can really have these amazing experiences, and it's okay to be a bit worried and a bit anxious about them. So this one is by Adiola Sukumbu, and it's amazing. Okay, so fantastic. This is another amazing book. So they're my recommendations. I could actually sit here for ages and recommend all the books that I think are fantastic, but I've just took a little sample there. So if you are looking for other reads and you might feel interested in any of the ones I've recommended, then please have a little look, whether you can get them out of your local library or your school library, because books are fantastic, and I would encourage you to read. Okay, so what we're going to do now is have a bit of a story time, if that's okay with you. So we're going to read out of this book, which is Keisha Jones is a Force of Nature. So this book is all about Keisha, who wants to be an activist just like her great aunt Bea, who was someone who was a lawyer, which is someone who practices law and helps with the country. And what she wants to do is save her local park and green spaces in her area. As you can see on the cover, Keisha is holding a tree and a megaphone because she likes her voice to be really, really loud. So I'm going to spend a bit of time reading to you from this book from the beginning. Okay. Welcome to my world. Hi, it's me, Keisha Jones, and I'm here to take on the world. I am 8 years old and I live with my mum, my dad, my two stinky brothers, Jaden and Otis, and my little dog, Minnie. Minnie has caramel-coloured fur, the cutest little nose, and is my best friend ever. Well, my best dog friend. My best human friends are Katie and Paisley, who go to my school. I like laughing until my tummy hurts, and dressing up Minnie, and making friends. Sleepovers and movie nights are my favourite. I really like questions. Why, where, what, when, who, and why again? I want to know everything, even when I'm not supposed to. Oh, I nearly forgot to tell you about the B Squad, named after my great aunt Bea. She was a lawyer and an activist and helped people all her life. And I want to be just like her. I set up the B Squad with Katie and Paisley to fight injustices everywhere. We even have our own handshake. Bzzz. Our first course for rabbit equality, and our next course will be, well, you wait and see. Chapter 1, Eco Warrior. You can do it, Dad, I called. Dad panted his way up the last steep bit of hill. Minnie scampers around in circles, offering gruffs of encouragement as I joined Jaden at the top. Whoa, I said, admiring the view. We were at our favourite nature park, the one with the big hill in the middle. Fluffy marshmallow clouds, blue sky, and the green of the forest stretch out below. The trees were so tightly packed together, they looked like one massive broccoli. I shivered and scrunched up my face. I hate broccoli. So cool, said Jaden, looking around and shielding his eyes from the sun. Worth parting with your video games for, gasped Dad, finally reaching the top. I wouldn't go that far, said Jaden, rolling his eyes. Dad plonked himself on the ground for a rest, and Minnie licked the big, fat drops of sweat running down his face. Ooh, Minnie, I grimaced. Rough, said Minnie, which in dog language means delicious. Dad loves what he calls the great outdoors and has been taking us on nature outings since before I could walk. I guess that's why he's the best gardener ever. Mum says he's got green fingers, which is weird because his fingers are brown. It looks like it goes on forever, I said, peering through my binoculars at the forest around us. Jaden jumped in front of me, and instead of the trees, I saw right up his horrible nose. Jaden, I squealed, pushing him away as he collapsed into giggles. For that, you're on picnic duty, said Dad, wagging his fingers at Jaden, who huffed as he began unpacking the food. Hey, Dad, I said, pointing at a splash of pink in the sea of broccoli. What's that? I handed Dad the binoculars, and as he squinted through them, his face broke into a grin. That is what's called a flower waterfall. A flower waterfall, I repeated. It's a place in nature where flowers hang from the trees and make a beautiful cascade. Those are wisteria plants, but you can create a flower waterfall out of all kinds of flowers. So cool, I cried. Can we go and see it? We can, but not today, said Dad, handing the binoculars back. We need to eat and then get back to help Grandpa Joe, remember? Every Sunday afternoon, we visit Grandpa Joe to give him a hand with stuff. Today, we were going to help out in the garden. Lunch with a view, said Jaden, pointing at the sandwiches, cake and fruit he'd laid out. As we munched our food, I asked Dad lots of questions about the park, and he gave me lots of answers. How did the trees grow so tall? I said. Those trees are hundreds of years old, said Dad. They've had the time. Grandpa Joe told me that this park's special, said Jaden, propping himself up on his elbow. Grandpa Joe's right, replied Dad. A nature park like this is protected because it's an area of natural beauty. Trees and spaces and green spaces are good for our well-being. What's well-being? I asked as Minnie snuggled into my lap. It's how good you feel in your body and your mind, said Dad with a big stretch. How does being here make you feel? Happy and full of energy, I giggled. Great, isn't it, said Dad. Some of my best memories are in green spaces, like this park. Ooh, mine too, I said. Picnics and hide and seek. Dad smiled. That's why people fight to protect big green spaces like this nature park, as well as smaller areas in towns and cities. People like your great Aunt Bee. Great Aunt Bee, I said, jiggling with excitement as Minnie sprang from my lap with an annoyed ruff. What did she do? Why don't you ask Grandpa Joe? Replied Dad. I'm sure he'd love to tell you all about it. Dad and Jaden wolfed down the last of the sandwiches and cake, but I couldn't eat another thing. My mind was too busy thinking about Great Aunt Bee. What had she done this time? Grandpa Joe, I said, running into the garden with Minnie at my heels. Dad and Jaden followed behind, carrying gardening tools. My favourite activists, Grandpa Joe smiled, putting down his watering can and scooping me up in their best bear hug. And my favourite cool dude, he said to Jaden, giving him a fist bump. We went all the way to the top of the hill and Dad told us about flower waterfalls and Great Aunt Bee fighting for green spaces, I said, grabbing his hand and steering him to his favourite deck chair. What did she do? Tell me everything. Rough, said Minnie, which in dog language means here we go again. Grandpa chuckled as he reached down and gave Minnie a stroke. Oh, Bee loved nature, he said, just like your dad, Jaden, and you. Did she like trees? I asked, wiping the mud smudge from Grandpa Joe's wrinkly face. I love trees. She loved it all. Trees, green spaces, animals, nature. But more importantly, she thought it should be enjoyed by all, said Grandpa Joe, his eyes twinkling as he spoke. In fact, you know Chamber Park? The park with the swings and the slides and the roundabouts, I asked. That very one, said Grandpa Joe. I nodded. Me, Paisley and Katie go there all the time. Well, you have your great Aunt Bee to thank for that, said Grandpa Joe. Wow, I gasped. Really? Yes, Grandpa Joe smiled. Bee campaigned to protect the land from developers who wanted to build a warehouse on it. It was just a big green field back then. But Bee wanted to turn it into a proper park and a safe place for the community to hold events, grow food and plant trees. She fought the developers with the help of the local people and won. Awesome. How did she do it? I asked. Well, it took a year of hard work, but Bee and her supporters organised protests and petitions, gave interviews on TV and in the newspapers, and got the town's mayor on their side. Grandpa Joe smiled proudly. She was a bit of an eco-warrior, was our Bee. What's an eco-warrior? I asked. An eco-warrior is an environmental activist, someone who wants to save the natural world, replied Grandpa Joe. Like all the stuff on our walk, I asked. The trees and the plants and the flowers. Yes, and eco-warriors like to use a hands-on method, said Grandpa Joe, giving me a tickle. Hands-on, I said, tickling him back. Direct action, similar to what you did when you swapped the male and female rabbits in Manny's pet store. He grinned. You took action to make things fair without asking permission. Oh, I said, remembering the B Squad's last mission for rabbit equality. Manny was selling his girl rabbits for less than the boy rabbits, which was unfair. I had to do something. Why don't you get the box, Keisha? Said Grandpa Joe. I'm sure I have some newspaper clippings about your great Aunt Bee and Chamber Park. I didn't have to ask which box he meant. Grandpa Joe's special wooden box full of all his Bee's favourite memories was my favourite. I sprinted up the stairs to Grandpa Joe's bedroom and peered under the bed. There, I carefully carried the box downstairs and placed it on his knee, fidgeting with impatience. Grandpa Joe opened the lid and rummaged inside. Ah, here it is, he said, unfolding a newspaper clipping and holding it out for me to see. A young great Aunt Bee stood smiling in front of a red ribbon draped across a gate. A tall man wearing a thick gold chain stood next to her. That's Mayor Smith, said Grandpa Joe. Look at his necklace, said Jaden, peering over my shoulder to get a closer look. He supported your great Aunt Bee in her fight to keep a green space for the community, said Grandpa Joe, which became Chamber Park. Wow, I gasped. The land Chamber Park was somewhere our mum used to take us as children, Grandpa Joe explained. A big green space where we'd have parties and picnics, along with lots of other families. Sounds like fun, I said. It was, said Grandpa Joe, until some big-wig developers bought the land from the council so they could build a warehouse on it. How did the mayor help? Asked Jaden. He provided a space for Bee to hold campaign meetings and an opportunity to express her views in the town's newspaper. He was also a good friend. It was tough for Bee. First she tried talking to the developers, but they wouldn't listen. Then she tried the legal route. Finally, Grandpa Joe chuckled and handed Jaden the newspaper cutting. Well, she tried a different tactic. Local activist ties herself to a tree in a battle to save our green space, read Jaden with a grin. He held up the newspaper so we could see great Aunt Bee chained to a massive tree. That's one of my favourite photos of your great Aunt Bee, Grandpa Joe smiled. It drew a lot of attention and generated masses of support for her cause. In the end, the developers gave up and withdrew their plans, he explained, and a year later, Bee and the mayor opened the new improved Chamber Park, complete with children's play area, a beautiful flower and vegetable gardens. Bee planted over 50 new trees too. That's awesome, I said, imagining great Aunt Bee chained to the tree and opening the park. I copied her pose from the picture in front of my imaginary tree, and Grandpa Joe gave me a thumbs up. I wish the Bee Squad could do something as amazing as that one day, I said. I'm sure you will, said Grandpa Joe. Now, let's get stuck into this garden. Okay, I'm going to stop there in terms of our reading. I hope you enjoyed that, and if you're interested in what happens next, you can read the Keisha books to find out how her and her friends work together to help save Chamber Park. Okay, so I'm going to move on now to the next poll question. You were so good at getting the first one. Let's see how we go with this one. Okay, so the next question on my favourite snacks are number 1, crisp, number 2, chocolates, or number 3, carrot sticks. I am a snack queen. I love having snacks. One of my favourite things to do is to watch some films and snuggle up with lots of snacks. I think having a snack life is a wonderful life, but you can have snacks that are healthy and snacks that are a little bit more sweet if you've got a sweet tooth too. So let me know which of these you think is my favourite snack. Do I look like a crisp girl, a chocolate girl, or a carrot stick girl? Sometimes it's nice to have a bit of variety with your snacks as well. And I know it's only morning, but talking about snacks is making me want some. So, we have people who are watching think that my favourite snack is a chocolate. My actual favourite snack is crisp. I am a crisp girl, I'm a savoury girl. I love cheesy crisp, them type of crisp. I like crisp butties, if that's something that you've ever experienced. I can recommend it quite highly. I love a crisp butty, which is a crisp sandwich if you're not maybe a Scouser and you don't understand that slang. So yeah, so well done everyone. But I've got to say, I am partial to chocolates too, and I don't mind a carrot sticker every now and then. But I think if I was to pick any, it would be crisp. Okay, so we're going to move on now. Thank you for participating. So I'm just going to talk a little bit about me. So I am from Liverpool, as we've already established, and I am an author. I am a person who likes writing stories for children. And I grew up in a place called Liverpool. I'm the oldest of 7 children as well. So there was always babies around me, always people who were interested in stories. So that was one of the reasons why I wanted to be an author. I used to read stories to my siblings to get them asleep sometimes or to entertain them, and realised that I really enjoyed writing. But I also absolutely loved to read. Reading was one of the main things in my life. I used to go to the library, my local library, which was about a 5-minute walk from my house. And I used to get out lots of books and I used to read them all and be back within a couple of days to get some more. In school, I used to have a library in school, and I remember reading a book, and because I was so engrossed in it, I used to just go for all of my break times to go and read these books because I enjoyed them so much. It was a way of me of learning about lots of other people and lives, and it was also sometimes an escapism. What I think is amazing about books is that they can transport you to another place and allow you to live someone else's life. And there's a really important word which I think is called empathy. And empathy is a way of you putting yourself in someone else's shoes and imagining what life would be like. It's a really good trait to have, empathy, because it allows us to really care about other people and imagine life from a different point of view. If everyone was exactly the same, then our lives would be very, very boring. And I think empathy allows you to honour and respect others who are different from you, and understand that just because someone's different, it doesn't mean it's a negative thing. So I am currently doing something called a PhD, which is a doctorate. So I'm in university studying all about how storytelling can help people, because I think it's such a powerful thing. I am also, I have my own business, which is all about creative writing and supporting other people to use creative writing to develop and grow. I'm also a person who dances. I've got my dance troupe, and I'm supposed to be there today, but I'm not, because I'm here with all of you, which is amazing, isn't it? But I run a dance troupe and where I live in Liverpool, and we love the happiness and the connection and how our bodies are connected to everything. And I think when we talk about authors and writing, sometimes it's connected to so many different forms of art, and usually creative people love all different types of creativity as well, or they've done it in the past as well. I also run an organisation called the Goddess Project, which is all about supporting women, black women, to develop and grow. But all through all of it, the connection all the way through it is wanting to make the world a bit of a better place, whether it's through my PhD, whether it's through the books, which, as you can see, have got a really what we call social justice, which is, it sometimes can be a bit hard to understand, but what other way we can put it is, it's about caring about other people. So Keisha, she has got friends and family in a community, and in the first book, Keisha wants to help the local rabbits in the pet shop. She wants to care about other people, just like her great Aunt Bee. In the second book, she wants to help green spaces in the community. And I have been an activist throughout my life, involved in work with food banks and doing drives for Christmas. Being a big sister sometimes makes you someone who wants to care about other people beyond your family. And one of the main things that have been a thread throughout my life is helping people. And you can help people in lots of different ways. And I think one of the reasons that the Keisha books were even imagined into existence was this idea of, you are never too small to be able to make a difference, even in your local community. You are never too little, you are never unimportant. Everything that you can do can make the world a better place. And that's what Keisha wants to do. And that's why we want everyone to be able to join the Bee Squad, because if we all do our little part, we can make where we live such a lovely, nicer place to be. There's a lot of scary things going on in the world, and one of the things that always allow me to remember how wonderful the world can be is other people, is our communities, that no matter what's going on outside, we have got each other, And the books, the Keisha Jones books, are all about community and doing things to make our lives better. Okay? So I think I've rambled a little bit about me. Enough. We're going to move on now. Okay, so the book that represents me, I would say, is this one. Is Keisha Jones is a Force of Nature. Now, it's the second book in the Keisha Jones series, and while the first one will always have a very special place in my heart because it allowed me to enter into the publishing world and actually officially claim the title of author, the reason why the second book was so important is that I am a person that loves parks and I'm a person that loves trees. There's a place in Liverpool called Sefton Park, and since I was a baby I've been going to that park, and I go nearly every week to walk around, and it's got a beautiful lake, it's got beautiful flowers, it's a beautiful space, and I go there and I walk around, and it's a really positive place to be. And I feel like the outdoors is so important to our well-being, as talked about in the book. And this book represents me because it's really heartfelt, it's really important. I'm not going to give you a spoiler, but sometimes when we want to save things, it doesn't end up in the way we want it to. And Keisha has to learn that really valuable, important journey and that really valuable, important lesson. And even though the first book took me longer to write, this one was quite quick. And I think that was because I was so used to who Keisha was and her family was and her friends were. But it also, I learned a lot from the first book about how to write the second book. And I think that the second book really connects more with who I am as a person, and it allows us to know that sometimes when things don't go our way, that's okay. If you're someone who cares about your local community, you won't always be able to save everything that you go after to support, but there's other ways that we can still make a positive difference. So I really love this book, and I think it represents me because it's quite true to life, but it still has the funniness and the adventure and the cheekiness of Keisha and the feistiness of Keisha, which I think is a little bit like me too. Okay, so we're going to go to the final poll question now. So this question is, my favourite thing about being an author is, so number one, meeting lovely young people like you all. Number two, being on a deadline. Or number three, seeing my books in the shops. Okay? So I want you to think a little bit about what you think my favourite thing about being an author is. And maybe think about some of the things I've already said today. What do you think, if you were an author, what would be your favourite thing about being an author? I've got to be honest, there's lots of favourite things about being an author. There's lots of lovely things. It's a job that I really, really do enjoy. But which one do you think? Number one, number two, or number three? Right, so the feedback is that you have picked number one, meeting lovely young readers like you, and I would tell you that you are correct. That is my absolute favourite thing about being an author. Sometimes when you are writing a book, it's just, well, to be fair, every time when you're writing a book, it's just you and your laptop, sometimes in your house or wherever you choose to write. And you can get really absorbed by the writing journey and experience. And sometimes you don't really think about what's going on in the outside world because you're focused so much on finishing your book. When I really realised the impact that the Keisha Jones series has had, or how it has supported young people, is when I meet young readers who tell me their favourite characters or the parts that they enjoyed, or ask me lots of amazing questions about the books and about being an author. It's such a lovely thing. I do school visits sometimes, and I go in to see young readers, and just seeing kids excited about reading in a way that I was when I was your age is fantastic. As a child, I read so many different books, and I never really got a chance to meet an author or even know that there was someone like me that could be an author. So the fact that I can meet other kids and can possibly inspire them to be a writer and an author themselves, it's just one of my all-time favourite things about this job. I definitely don't enjoy being on a deadline. Sometimes that can be really stressful, but other times it can really focus you and get you really into the zone of finishing your book. And seeing my books in the shop, that is a lovely experience. It's so nice seeing your books in a shop that you used to shop for other books when you were younger. It's a nice experience, but it doesn't even come close to meeting young readers like you all. Okay, so we are going to do an activity now. So I want you to make sure that you've got your hands free. So I don't know if you were aware of this, but I wear hearing aids. Okay, so I am deaf and I wear hearing aids. And what that means is sometimes when I communicate, it can be in a different way. So for example, if I am on a Zoom meeting, I have to have the captions there, which are the words that tell me what people are saying. Sometimes when I go to certain events, I have my hearing aids looped into a hearing loop so I can hear and I can amplify the sound a bit more. Sometimes when I'm out shopping, it can be really hard sometimes to communicate with people, especially when there's a lot of noise in the background. But there's also some fantastic things about being deaf as well, because sometimes I can just really concentrate and outside noise does not bother me. And that, when you're an author, is a superpower because you can really focus in. And sometimes when I am in public and I don't really want to be involved in certain conversations, that's also a positive as well. So sometimes when we talk about deafness, we can talk about the barriers that are in place. And while sometimes it is quite hard to be deaf in this world, there's also some positives to that, and it's also part of my identity. So it's a part that I embrace. But what I want to teach you today is a little bit of sign language, okay? So this is called British Sign Language, and it's what we deaf people, not every deaf person, but what some deaf people in our country use to communicate. I know that it is going to be a GCSE at some point, and is recognised as an official language for the UK for a number of years. So we're going to start off. So make sure you've got space and you've got your hands free, and let's go. So hello. I think we say this anyway, don't we? Without even realising that it's BSL. So hello. If we're going to say good morning, we've got to say good and then morning, okay? Around your chest, okay? And then if we're saying how are you, it's how are you? How are you? Okay? Fantastic. And then thanks and please on our chins and then around, okay? Like that. That's a really good one because manners are so important. If we ever done something that we probably shouldn't have and we need to apologise, whether it's being a bit naughty for our parents or carers, or whether it is taking more cake than you should have, you know, that all happens sometimes, you have to say sorry. So we have a fist on our chest and we bring it round in a semicircle, okay? And then goodbye, which is exactly the same as hello, okay? There you have it. You've learned some BSL today, and that is fantastic. And see if you can use that within your classrooms with each other. Okay, I'm going to move on now. So, activity 2. So, some of you will have worksheets, some of you might not, but activity 2 is called the Acts of Kindness activity. I don't know if people are aware, but in the books, in the Keisha Jones books, kindness is a really core value of Keisha and of her friends. Keisha is someone that stands up for others when people haven't got a voice, because she's confident and she's vibrant and she can sometimes be a bit bossy, but that's fine. I think I encourage girls to be confident, because we should, as well as boys too, and everyone else. So the Acts of Kindness activity is about thinking about acts of kindness. The first rule of the B Squad is to be kind, because kindness is so important. I think when people are kind to each other, it just sort of makes our experience of living so much nicer. It makes us feel connected and part of something, and it actually costs nothing to be kind. So that's why it's such an important attribute to have. So what I want you to do is, if you've got the worksheet, but if not, you can draw it around your hand, write it in the fingers, or you can just do it in your head. That's fine too. I want you to think about random acts of kindness to show how you can help the people and the world around you. Now, when we're talking about random acts of kindness, we're not talking about big things. It could just be saying hello to someone. It could be making sure that in your friendship group, no one is excluded or left out. It could be making sure that you're kind to the earth and putting any litter from your chocolate bars or your crisp into the bin. It could be that you are nice to animals. It could be that you give everyone that you come into contact with a nice smile. I think when we think of kindness, I think these little acts of kindness can change the world, and we all have to start somewhere. So I just want you to think of some of the amazing things that you could do, or maybe some of the little things that you can do that can be kind to other people, people in your school or your communities. Okay? I'm going to give you a few seconds to think a bit about it, and you could chat with your teacher and with the person next to you in your classroom. I think an act of kindness for me is always a big smile, or always helping people out if they ask for it, or making sure that no one is left out when you're playing and that everyone feels that they're part of things. That's a really important act of kindness as well. Okay? So this is something that you can think of beyond our session today. I'm going to move on. Okay, so the next activity is called the B Squad Promise. So the B Squad Promise is in the first book, this one, Keisha Jones Takes on the World. And this is the B Squad Promise and the handshake. And this is what Keisha puts together to how the B Squad are going to operate. Okay, so rule number 1, we will be good. Okay, if you want, what I want you to do is when I say rule number 1, I want you to copy the sentences that are we will be. Okay, any we will be sentence, I want you to say out loud in your class. So okay, and copy my actions as well. So rule number 1, we will be good. Okay, nice thumbs up, 2 thumbs up if you wish as well. Okay, rule number 2, we will be strong. Okay, strong. Rule number 3, we will be fair. Okay. Rule number 4, we will be united. Okay. And rule number 5, this is a bit of a mouthful, so I don't expect you to copy it completely, but if you can, brilliant. Rule number 5, we will be just like Great Aunt B. Okay. Fantastic. Well done. So what I'm going to do now is show you the B Squad handshake. I think this is one of the easiest handshakes ever. So what I want you to do is, what noise 2 bees make? Zzz, okay? So the person next to you or to yourself, zzz, and then to the person next to you, zzz, and that is the B Squad handshake. And you are officially all members of the B Squad. Well done, well done, and welcome. You've got a lot of friends here, okay? Fantastic. So what I want you to think a little bit about is what you care about. So in the 2 books, Keisha cares about, we can see the bunnies, she cares about the monies in the local pet shop. In the second book, you can see that she cares about the trees and the green spaces. Now, you might care about them things too. In your local area, you might have a park or a green space, or you might have animals that you love or really care about. I want you to think about what it is that you care about. Is it the oceans? Is it littering? Is it recycling? Is it being a good friend and a family member? Is it making sure that everyone has got enough access to food or enough access to warmth and electricity and heat? There's so many different causes out there that you can care about. And I just want you to take a minute to think what is important to you. Because what might be important to you might not be important to the same person, and that's fine. We all have our things that we care about. And I want you to think a little bit about, if you were Keisha, what would your cause be? Here's the bunnies, and then the trees and green spaces. But if it wasn't Keisha Jones, if it was your name takes on the world, or your name is a force of nature, what thing do you think you would care about and would be your cause? Okay? Okay, so some of you, or all of you hopefully, will have the extension activity, which is a placard and poster making. That is meant for you to do away from this talk today, because we unfortunately haven't got enough time to do the amazing things that we would love to do with you all. So if you would like to do this activity within your classroom, there is the instructions onto how, and that should be included in your pack. And that's all about how to make a placard. And if people don't know what a placard is, those boards that Keisha and Paisley and Katie are holding up, that's what a placard is. It's another word for a poster, really, and it is a way for you to communicate a really important message about your cause. So we've got a fun part now, which I have been sent in this fantastic bowl all of your questions. So I'm going to go in and have a little look at your questions and hopefully answer them. So the first one is from Squirrels Heath Junior School. Hi. So what inspires you to write? It's a really good question. Thank you very much for that. A lot of things inspire me to write. I think I love being creative. I love telling stories. And I think current events, what's going on in the world, inspires me to write. My books, the Keisha Jones books, are all about a little girl who wants to make the world a better place. So I am inspired by what's going on in our world and about how we can communicate that to young people like yourself, to kids like yourself. I'm inspired by other arts and things. I went to see Wicked last night. That inspires me. Other art and other creativity. I'm inspired by other authors, some of the amazing authors that I've spoke about on today. That inspires me to write. And then you inspire me to write. I love the idea of young people, kids like you, picking up books and enjoying characters and getting real pleasure from reading and learning a lot. So there's lots of things that inspire me to write, and probably one of the most important ones is you. Okay, so next question. This is from Clifton upon Team Primary School. How long did it take you to write the first book you had published? Ooh, okay, it's a good question. Thank you for that. So the first book took me about 1.5 years, 18 months. And that was because we were deciding what Keisha looked like, what her family looked like, what the cover was going to look like, what all of the illustrations were going to look like. We were looking at all of this type of stuff. So we had to make sure that we really found the right tone for the story and the right characters, and they went back and forth. I wrote the book 5 times. So I done a first draft, sent it off to my editor, Jane, who was fantastic at Little Tiger, and then we went back and forth about 5 times, and there's various different stages, and 5 times sounds like a lot, and it is. So the book, the first draft, is very, very different from the final draft, and an editor is really good at allowing you to bounce ideas back and forth, highlight things that don't really flow well, because it's important with a book that you've got good flow, the characters make sense, and any naughty spelling mistakes and things like that, the editor picks up on that. And that went back about 5 times, and that's how long it took. The second book took me about 6 months to write, but I think that was because the first one was laying the foundations for the series. Okay? Next question. Oh, I love this question. This is from Millbridge Primary. Hi. So, how fun is it to be an author? Oh, it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. It's one of the main things that I love about being an author as well, is that an event like this today is a lot of fun for someone like me. I love meeting people, and I love speaking to people. There's lots of amazing events that you can go to. There's lots of amazing other authors and creatives that you can meet. Making sort of the story, and because there's some funny bits in the books that I write, so coming up with jokes and things that kids would appreciate is a lot of fun, because I do think kids are naturally funny. And sometimes they just say what they think. And in a world, an adult where there's, we have to be really polite sometimes, it's just really funny. The kids just speak their minds, and it allows me to indulge my inner child. So it's a lot of fun to be an author. Like today, I'm going to another event, and I'm really excited about that. I love going into schools. I love the writing. It can be a bit stressful, because with anything you've got deadlines, which is you've got to get something in at a certain time, so there's a bit of pressure sometimes to come up with new ideas and to meet a time scale. But the majority of being an author is really, really nice and fun, and being able to see your ideas come alive and then be read by thousands of kids, young people, that is amazing. So yeah, it's a lot of fun being an author. Thank you for that question. Okay, next question. Ooh, this is a deep one. How did your childhood impact your decision to be a writer? And this is again from Millbridge Primary, some fantastic questions there. So my childhood, as I said a bit earlier, I'm the oldest of 7, so there's 19 years between me and my younger sister, so there was always babies in my house. And even my family now, I've got lots of nieces and nephews, so there's a lot of babies around us. So at my childhood, we lived in a house where it was just me mum and these kids. So we didn't really have much. We had to sort of make do with what we had. So for me, it impacted on my decision to be an author, because I used writing and reading as a form of escapism sometimes from circumstances that weren't altogether great. And that allowed me to understand that there's an amazing world out there in terms of the reality of the world, but also the fantasy of the world, because one of my favourite genres is fantasy. I love anything that's to do with magic and things like that. So knowing that I wanted a life where I could provide for myself, a life that I wanted to write amazing books and allow kids that might be like me when I was younger to have some joy and positivity in their life was something that really impacted on my decision. If you're a child that comes from a background where you don't have much money at home, or there's a lot of siblings, it means that, you know, there's not a lot of time for you, that sometimes you are really involved with helping your brothers and sisters, putting them to bed, doing lots of chores and things like that. So I just wanted to make sure that there was books that could really make people smile and could allow any child that might have experienced something similar to me to have some pleasure and happiness within their life. And then I worked really hard in other areas before I became an author, because I knew I wanted a life where I could really enjoy myself and also support my family in different ways as well. So my childhood had a massive impact on me wanting to be an author, because I seen books as a friend when I was really young, and I wanted to be able to provide that to other kids as well. Amazing question. We went really deep there, and sometimes it's good to go deep, so thank you. The next one is, let's have a little look. From, I don't know if I'm going to pronounce this right, so I will try, Yilston Farm. I'm really sorry if I butchered that, but I did try. How old were you when you knew you wanted to write? I think I was very young. I remember being in primary school and keeping little notebooks and writing things in my notebook and writing poetry and things like that. So I think I was a child when I knew I wanted to write, but I always done it as what is called a side hustle. So I ended up being a youth worker. I was a manager of a national charity. I worked at the NHS as a service manager as well. I'd done lots of jobs, and I always done writing, but it was just a hobby. It was more of a side thing. And then when the pandemic happened, COVID, I was made redundant from my job, which means a lot of people weren't able to work anymore because of what happened with COVID. And I decided that that was when I was going to try and make a real go at being an author full time. And I really put lots of time and effort into me writing, and about 6 months from that date, that was when I had a book deal. And that's not a normal story about how to go about getting a book deal, but I just think it was the time. And what people don't talk about a lot when you're an author is people just think it's writing time, but to be an author, you have to have thinking time. You have to have time to connect. You have to have time to be able to come up with ideas and characters and connect it to real life things that are happening, and to really make sure that your story and the world that you're creating is very full and has really got lots of different factors. So sometimes writing is just thinking. And I'd never allowed myself to do that before, because I was always working in lots of different jobs and this, and I was always making sure that I was earning a good wage. And while there was lots of positive things about that, what I found was my creativity was shrinking, and I didn't have enough time to really dream up these worlds that I wanted to. And sometimes when you haven't got the time to be creative, you suffer. And one of the things I learned was that I am at heart a very creative person, and if I'm not allowed to be creative, that has a really negative impact on me and the way I feel about myself and my mental health. So once I decided that I was going to be an author and that was what I was going to focus on, it just really helped me. I felt so much happier. I felt so much more connected and willing and able to link into all the wonderful things in life. So very young when I wanted to be a writer, but I only actually became an author in my 30s, mid-30s, which is quite late for a lot of people. But some part of me thinks it was the right time for me, because I had lots of different experiences that were able to make my books the best that they could be. Okay. There's so many amazing questions here. I don't know if we're going to get through all of them, but I will try. Okay, this is from St. John's Primary School. Hi. And it says, is Keisha Jones based off a real character? So, Keisha Jones is not based off a real character, But Aunt B was based off a real character. She was based off a activist called Florence Kennedy, I think, who was American. And she's not based exactly, but we got the idea of this amazing activist that done so much, and we thought we would like someone like her to be in our books and give us an idea. So no, and I think what happens when you're a writer is you do steal bits of people that you meet. And so you might have certain attributes from your niece or from your sister or brother or from your, you know, your nan or anything like that, that you think would be really good in a character. So Keisha Jones is not really based off a real character. I've had people say, is Keisha Jones you? My niece, Luna, she thinks Keisha Jones is her, and she thinks that Aunt Marie is me when she sees the pictures, because we both got curly hair. But it's not based off any person directly. I think at 8 years of age, I wanted to be a pop star. I didn't want to be an author. I wanted to be on the stage like Beyonce, singing all the songs and being at the top of the charts. So I wasn't really interested in social justice in the way that Keisha Jones was. She was a lot more grounded than I was at that age. But I do think there's probably parts of me that leak into Keisha because I'm an activist and I am interested in helping the world. Good question. Thank you so much for that. Okay, so the next question is... These are fantastic questions. What sacrifices have you made to accomplish your dreams? Wow, what an amazing question. And that is from Squirrels Heath Junior School. So I think one of the things that I've touched upon is that to be an author, you have to be really focused and you have to really say no to certain things to allow you space and time to be able to write. And I remember at the summer of, I think it was 2023, and I was on a double deadline. So what that means is I just finished the Keisha Jones, the first book, and the second book, I was on my second draft, and I was on my final draft. And I remember having this double deadline of having to submit, and it was a lovely sunny weather, which we don't really get that much of really in this country. And all of my friends were going to the park and they were going out and they were having a lovely time. And I was just sitting in my flat in a blanket, typing away at my laptop. So sometimes you have to make sacrifices with where you spend your time, and you have to say no to some people because you have to finish your book. Other sacrifices maybe that I can make. I think you have to, I think the main answer to that question is you have to say no to things that don't allow you to be an author. So if you were asked to go, to go travel a certain place and you have to focus on your writing and it won't allow you to do that, then you've got to say no. So it's more about protecting your time. Because what I find is there's always something to do in other areas of your life. There's always something else that you have to pay attention to. And you have to be quite fierce at guarding your time and saying, if I want to be a writer, if I want to be an author, I need to invest in that as important as I would invest in anything else. So sometimes you have to have a degree of, I use the word selfishness, but I don't think it is selfishness. It's more focus and drive to say no to things and not go on certain holidays or days out and things like that because you've got to get things sorted. Now, I'm not saying I don't go on holidays and I don't enjoy myself, because I really do. I have quite a lovely life, and I think it's so important that enjoying yourself is part of the life that you live. But when it comes to sacrifices, you have to sometimes say no to other opportunities that are not aligned with you being an author in order to really do what you want to do. Now, I would say that probably is the same for anything. If you want to be a footballer or you want to be a dancer, you sometimes have to practice a couple of times a week. You sometimes have to say no to going to the pictures or doing this and things like that. You have to be really focused and really driven in whatever you want to achieve. And that has been one of the things about me that's allowed me to be an author, is that when I want something or want to be something, then I put my all into it. And that's probably the advice that I give to yourselves, that if you want to do something, you need to focus and put your all into it. Definitely. Okay, so let's see. We've got a few minutes left, so let's have a little look. Let's see what questions that we've got. I think we've got these two. This is from St. John's Primary School. What advice would you give to a child who is struggling to enjoy reading? This is a really good question. Thank you very much for that. So my advice would be read what you're interested in. So if you're a person that really likes football, there's plenty of books out there that have got footballers as the main characters or have got football theme in their actual book. If you're a dancer and you really love to dance, try and find a character who is a dancer and wants to dance too. There is a book out there for every single person. For example, if you're interested in science, the Supernova book that I showed you before by Shantae Timothy, this one. This is a graphic novel and it's got lots of amazing pictures and illustrations in it. And with this particular book, this little girl is really interested in science and wants to be a scientist. So if you're someone that's really interested in science and you're not too bothered about reading lots of words, that's a book that might be perfect for you. So think about what you're interested in and read that. People often talk about, reading the classics and stuff, and I love the classics, I've got to be honest. But I think as a child, there's no point us giving you books that you look at and you're not interested in, because it'll just make reading a chore. And for me, we need to move reading from being a chore to being a pleasure, to being something that you can fully enjoy. As a child, reading for me was a massive pleasure, and I was so interested in books because I was able to read what I wanted and pick things that aligned with who I was as a person. So if you're a child that is struggling with reading, look at graphic novels, look at books that are interested in the things that you like to do, and I'm sure you will find a book that will make you just as excited as I was as a child. Okay, the next question. Who is your favourite author? I think I've seen one before in there. I'm not sure what school that's from, I apologise. I think I've dropped it on the floor. So, who's your favourite author? My favourite author is an amazing American author called Toni Morrison. She is, when I first read her books, I didn't realise that writing could sound like poetry. And I am a poet. I like to write poetry too. So when I read her books and novels, I was like, oh, this sounds like pure poetry. It felt musical. It felt, it flows beautifully, her grasp on language, and the way she described scenes, whether it be a person or a place, just blew me away. And it showed me that writing can be presented in whatever way you wish. So Toni Morrison, it is adult novels that Toni Morrison does, so I wouldn't recommend any of you to read the novels until you're of age, but she is my favourite author. I also love Mallory Blackman, and that is some books that you could read which are your age, because they are the Noughts and Crosses trilogy, for example, or it's beyond a trilogy now, but them books are fantastic. And I loved Mallory Blackman because she was able to take an idea and subvert the idea and allow you to think a little bit differently about really interesting social justice issues in a way that was really powerful and digestible as well. Okay, so I've got one more question left because I know we've not got much time. And this is from Squirrels Heath Junior School. And the question is, what advice would you give to children who want to make a difference in the world? And that's a fantastic question to end on, so thank you so much. I would say is talk about the things that you love. Connect with people who might care about things too. Be able to speak to your friends and family about that connection, because that's exactly what Keisha does. She speaks to her grandpa, to her Aunt Marie. She eventually speaks to her parents, she speaks to her friends, and she creates a community that equally care about the causes that she cares about as well. Learn about the things that you care about, whether it's through research or whether it's through on the internet or whether it's through books. Find out more about that subject that you're interested in. See what things are set up within your school to help share your voice and to look at the issues at hand. Make sure that you get the right support. And remember that you are never ever too small to make a difference. Okay? So I think that's the end. What I would ask is that we have a QR code which is popped up at the moment, and I want you to scan here. Your school can scan there to let us know what you thought of the event. I think you might get this emailed out as well if you don't want to scan, but it's so important for BookTrust to get amazing feedback so that we can make events like this even better for fantastic readers and schools just like yours, okay? I want to say thank you so much for spending this time with me today. I've had a lovely morning. enjoy reading, and I hope to see you again soon. Thank you. Bye.